somebody's missing that awesome intro. Okay, so like I said, the P1 year longitudinal piece is going to set up the summer rotation in community pharmacy. So here's my goals. Goals for the P1 year. Some of you have pharmacy practice experience. By show of hands, how many people have pharmacy practice experience in a community pharmacy setting? Okay, how many people in a hospital pharmacy setting? How many people in another pharmacy setting, like long-term care, something like that? Okay, so a lot of you have been in a pharmacy. I'm guessing there's probably a big span. There's people who shadowed, and there's people who've probably been a tech for 10 years. I don't know what your experiences are, so I need to make sure that before you go out on rotation, we have kind of a baseline knowledge of everybody is doing the same things in sort of a standardized way. So we send you out kind of like a gold seal that, that things are going to go a particular way. So I want to make sure that we're at least technician and intern level functioning. That's great because you don't get to be an intern until you come to pharmacy school. So there's some things that as a tech you probably didn't get to do. So there's something everybody can learn. Common question is, can I test out of it? The answer is no, you can't, because we have to get everybody that 300 hours, and those hours are accounted for in this curriculum. So I'll try to challenge you. Some of this may be things you already know. Some of it you might be doing the wrong way. We'll kind of figure it out. So it's going to be community focused. We're going to work on your communication skills. We're going to develop you as a future practitioner. And my overall goal is always progress, not perfection. So I don't expect you to be a licensed pharmacist or practicing at the level of a practice pharmacist. That's not fair, because that's not where you are. I just want to see you grow. So we're going to challenge you, but I'm not looking for perfection. Here's the different components. So what I'm going to do today is walk through the syllabus. You now have access to the D2L course. Wait a second before we go on there. When you pull up the syllabus, just a fair warning, it's big. It's going to feel overwhelming. That's because we have a syllabus for the whole course, and then for each component there's a little mini syllabus that kind of gives more detail. So it's a lot. Sit on it, maybe go through white coat ceremony, don't look at it today. And I'll kind of help pick out the big highlights. We have to describe all this, and I want to give you all the information, but I don't want to overwhelm you. We're going to talk through the schedule, attire considerations, and then just straight off the bat, this is a pass-fail course. So everybody is aware of that, and we do have in-semester remediation if we need to update anything. There's 3 components, really. Simulation, patient care, and service. And IPE, or interprofessional education, sort of falls under these 2. But it's handled a little differently, so I'm bubbling that one out. Okay, first one is simulation. So like I mentioned, we're going to simulate community pharmacy practice. I typically run that one. This year, Dr. Dowling and Dr. Brewster, who you'll meet later on, will be with me. In the fall, there's 3 visits, a 2-hour visit and 2 1-hour visits. And then in the spring, you'll have 2 2-hour visits. And when I get to this schedule, I'll kind of show you where those fall. We usually have them down in the compounding lab, which is in the basement directly below me. It's IPPE attire. IPPE attire is basically what I've got on today. It's what Anna talked about on Monday. It's your business casual or better. You don't want to wear a suit, but business casual. Not what you guys have on. You'd look great, just not quite IPPE. And everything is on D2L. And we're going to visit the D2L page here in a second. Patient care experience is off-site, and it's with Dr. Gray. He's going to come in here at the end to just kind of give you a little bit of an overview about it. But it's at Cornerstone Village, which is a local senior center. And basically what we do is we take groups of students and partner them with senior patients, and we give you guided experiences to talk about how that person's health is, how they navigate through the healthcare system, what their involvement is with different members of the healthcare team. You get to know about their life. Most students really enjoy it. It's kind of like having an adopted grandparent there for a while. There's 2 visits, one in the fall, one in the spring. In the fall, we have to orient you to the site. It's a requirement of the site, so you'll go 1 additional time in the fall. So 2 visits in the fall. And then in the spring we have another activity that you'll do. So at most you'll be going to that facility twice a semester. That one's IPPE attire as well. I know I haven't really told you any details about any of these things. We're good there. Interprofessional education is basically what we're doing with our multidisciplinary teams. So medicine, pharmacy, nursing, and clinical and rehabilitative sciences. You'll have 2 visits in the fall, 2 visits in the spring. Dr. Cross oversees that one. And again, it's IPPE attire. And this one actually is a little bit on campus and off campus. So there will be a split, and you'll probably get to go and see some different practice sites that are collaborative. It's going to be very variable, and you'll find out more information as that comes out. And then service is another thing that I oversee, and it's self-directed. So we're going to go through what that means, but basically you pick events that you like, and you get credit for them. So it's your way of figuring out what I want to explore, how I want to develop as a practitioner, and it counts towards your credit in this course. And I'll tell you how you find those activities and how you sign up for those activities, but it's a total of 10 hours that's required. So that's kind of the summary. So this really does not sound, if we think about 2 visits here, 2 visits there, it shouldn't sound like overwhelming, but it's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of little buckets within a course, and I think sometimes that's what gets confusing for students. So if you go on D2L, which is our course management page, you should now have access to longitudinal IPPE P1. So if you have a device and want to follow along, feel free to get it out. We can kind of walk through this, otherwise I'll have it up on the screen. Have people used D2L before? If you're an ETSU student, for undergrad you know, but I don't know if I can do it. So to get to D2L, it's elearn.etsu.edu, elearn.etsu.edu, and you log in with your ETSU username and password. And it'll take you to a landing page that has, get out of there. I don't know how many courses you guys will have, but you'll have access to more of them by Monday. So are you guys seeing longitudinal IPPE P1? Okay, go ahead, open that course. And then if you click under content, under that top navigation bar, let's see, hang on, I'm going to try to change my view so you guys don't have to see all the behind the scenes stuff that I have. Okay, so there's a navigation bar to the left. If you click on General Course Documents, this is kind of the meat and potatoes. This is like the big overview of the whole curriculum. So we're going to skip the syllabus for a second and just click on the schedule, because I think that'll help me illustrate this better. Okay, so IPPE time is blocked on your calendars, and I think it's in gray on your class schedules, on your Tetris maps, on Wednesdays and Fridays in the afternoon, right? So this tells you where you need to be when. There's things that fall into this course that are experiential education requirements, so more things that pertain to Dr. Crow and the rotations that you do. And then those different activities that I just kind of outlined, those different buckets of activities that I coordinate. So it's a little bit of a mix, and I tried to kind of color coordinate it for you so you know what you're looking at. If you have not done basic life support training and you need to do that, there's some time blocked here. If you've already done it and you have your certification turned in, just ignore it. The first visit that we'll do is community simulation here at the beginning of September. And so you can see that not all of you come for that full 4-hour block. If you're in group 1, you're going to come from 1 to 3 on the 5th, and that's it. So even though that time is blocked on your schedule, you're not using all 8 hours of that every week. You're just using it as scheduled. I would caution you though, especially at the beginning of the semester, don't schedule that you're working during that time, because if we want to schedule something and you've already assumed that that's open to you, then we're going to have an issue. So obviously this is a priority. We block it off to use it, but you're not going to be there every week. Then in blue is IPE, or Interprofessional Education, and this CSHP, under like the section, is your communication skills groups. I don't know why, we can't come up with a better way to group you all. There's a gazillion ways to group you. So, communication skills. Do folks know if you're in group A or B for when you show up to that Thursday afternoon class where you go every other week? Well, those A-B groups are what's going to drive IPE scheduling. Okay?
Is that the same as the lab, group A, group B?
I don't know. Is it? Okay. Consensus seems like it is. I don't know. I think is it also like groups 1 through 8 are A, groups 9 through 16 are B. So there's some rhyme or reason to it. This would be a great, don't shoot the messenger. This would be a great piece of feedback potentially for Dr. Cross and potentially communication, is that we do everything by learning groups and we can kind of not have multiple ways of saying the same thing. I'll work on it. Okay, so again, if you're in group 1, you're only coming on Thursday the 13th. You're not scheduled for the 20th because that's a group B group. Other things that fall into this course, you guys will learn how to give immunizations at the end of September, beginning of October. It's a college requirement. It's not, we use IPE time because it fits. It's a practice experience. So that is here on your schedule as well. Then, Dr. Crow, there's some due dates here for different activities. So the block on October 5th is actually not even a class meeting, it's just a due date, so that you're aware. And we'll get into what that due date is, what those requirements are. We've got a simulation visit where you're visiting for an hour on October 10th. And then all students on the 17th, again by groups, either on October 24th or 31st. So see how this is why I told you day 1, you need a planner. Because this is complicated, but we're not asking 8 hours a week. I just need you to make sure you know when you're supposed to be where, when. And we try to lay it out for you in a way that makes that as clear as possible. So here's the schedule. And I've got your holidays and everything blocked off. Any questions about the schedule, and then we'll go back and look at the syllabus. Yes, ma'am.
That one day for that, there's like an IPE and then there's another
Uh-huh.
on that schedule. How do you know which one you're doing?
So if you look under sections, it tells you what.
You know, like this thing, there's like 2 in the.
So that's this. So this is a Thursday afternoon. All right, that's another funky thing. All right, guys. IPE is new this year for us, and so we're working out some of the kinks. So you'll notice on the schedule, IPE, the grade time is blocked off on Mondays and Fridays. Unfortunately, to get all colleges in the Health Sciences Center together, we can only do it on Thursday afternoons. So we're using time on Thursday afternoons for you to do IPE on off weeks when you're not in communications. So there for a while, there's a 4-week gap where you're probably going to be doing something every week. it'll be IPE, then the next week will be communications, or vice versa. IPE, communications, but just for those 4 weeks. And that's a little bit of deviation from the schedule. So that's a good question, and it's bolded there on the side. See how it's kind of bolded and grayed out on the schedule to show that it's not during the blocked IPPE time. It's off. And that's also why it's on your schedule like
So
that.
where it says Group A, so does that mean Group B will be in the communications class that week instead of that? Okay.
Yep. So you'll all be doing something. And Dr. Cross will be in class with you next Wednesday morning, I believe, in CPOP. And he can clarify this too. Yes, ma'am.
I see that the RAM clinic is on the schedule. Are we doing that?
So the RAM clinic we're going to get to. It's blocked off for you just so you're aware of it, and there's you can use participation in that event for service hours. We have lots of opportunities for students to participate, and that's why it's on your calendar so that you're aware. And it falls on Friday, which is an IPPE day. Okay. Okay? All right.
What's OEE?
OEE is the Office of Experiential Education. That's us. That's where you are right now. You're talking to OEE.
What do we do for that day?
What do you do for that day? Well, what's it say? Which date are we on?
Cornerstone up a little bit.
The green
Did we just, is that what we just, is that
The
just-
dark green ones.
So we don't
That's
need, we just do.
just a due date.
Okay.
Yes?
How did you figure out whether you're A or B? I found the group list where you can see, your group 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So you can find where to figure out.
So,
The application.
okay, guys. So whoever answered that they know what communication skills group are, when they show up for communications, how did you know that? Is there a D2L page that's open? How did you know on Thursday afternoons? I'm seeing a lot of blank stares. Okay, we will clarify that for you. So what happens on Thursday afternoons is you only go every other week. We do small groups for this communication skills course. It's pharmacy students, medical students, nursing, sometimes psychology. And you're in these little small groups and you learn to talk to people. You learn to build relationships with folks in a medical setting. Only half of you will have class each week. On the offset weeks, 4 weeks out of the semester, we do IPE, interprofessional education. It's a condensed, consolidated experience on off weeks. I don't know how they picked groups A versus group B, but I'll figure that out for you, and we'll let you know.
It's the same as whatever your lab is.
It's the same as whatever your lab is.
So Group A is 1 through 8, and then Group B is 9 through 16.
Okay. And we messed up because we originally had you in 18 groups, and then that was not right. So you guys are, I understand why you're confused. It's going to be fine. If you show up in the wrong place the first week, we will happily redirect you and get you where you're supposed to be. So I apologize that that's really confusing. Did that help at all? So 1 through 8 are in A, 9 through 16 are in B. Make yourself a planner, and if it's not lining up, let me know. I think, Dr. Crow, I think we are the most complicated. So from here, it gets significantly less complicated. Okay. So here is the syllabus. We're going to walk through this quickly because I got to move on to the next thing. I'm going to hit the highlights. Things we need to make sure that you have. There are some course requirements, and Dr. Crow is going to talk about those. And they have to do with our site partners. So to get you all into sites, whether it's volunteer sites to do service activities, or Cornerstone to meet with your senior patient, or your rotations next summer, a lot of them require things in order to get outsiders or people from affiliates into their site. And so there's some additional requirements that we have that you'll be asked to make sure you do, and she's going to go through that. Here is the layout of activities and kind of generally how the hours line up. If this is too overwhelming, just follow the calendar. Let's see. As I mentioned, the evaluation for this is all pass-fail. But you may be wondering, well, how are you going to determine pass-fail? Well, it depends. So it depends by component. So for simulation, we're going to be looking at attendance and participation, professionalism. We'll do some skills assessment, and that'll tell me whether or not we need to do remediation, which is basically we need a little more practice. But we will remediate you within the semester. So as long as you show up and play along, you should be just fine. And again, we're looking for progress, not perfection. There's a reflection requirement for each component too, because it's important to me that you all know how to self-evaluate. That's a big component of being a professional, and something that I have to do a lot is figure out, okay, where do I stand, what am I doing well, what can I work on, and how do I go from here? So that's kind of consistent the whole way down. Again, for patient care, as long as you show up and act appropriately, and complete the limited assignments that there are, you'll be good to go. That's all documented within D2L. And then in the service component, as long as you complete the stipulated number of hours, and we don't have any sort of issues with not completing a reflection, that's it. So basically just check the boxes, and that's all you need to do. Enjoy the ride. You'll get the opportunity to evaluate all components of the course at the end of the year. So we value your feedback and change things every year based on that. The reason we actually speak to you at orientation is because there's no class period. So I'm never going to see all of you again for longitudinal IPPE in a big classroom like this. That's why we have to sometimes kind of schedule time here and there outside of IPPE times, because there's no classroom reserved for us. So we try to make them at times when it's not burdensome for you all. We'll use open lab periods or open exam blocks, but there's no classroom time reserved for this particular activity. And so sometimes that's why we run into scheduling problems. So hopefully you forgive us for that, but usually that's all of about twice a semester at most. Okay, that's the big portion of the syllabus, and then every single appendix, or every single activity has its own kind of mini syllabus. So if you want to see, well, what are we going to do during this simulation? Well, there's an addendum for that. If you want to see, well, what are we going to do during the patient care experience with Dr. Gray, with that senior patient? Well, there's a description for that. So it gives you kind of even more information should you want it. For the simulation I mentioned, we're trying to do things that are intern level functioning. So what our focus is in the fall is about dispensing primarily and basics of community pharmacy practice. We teach you how to take verbal prescription orders. I teach you how to do profile reviews and identify medication-related problems. I teach you how to correspond with other healthcare practitioners about issues that you identify. We also teach you how to counsel patients and how to communicate with other members of the team. And then in the spring, basically, we bring all of that together and layer it. So it looks like a running community pharmacy and all the activities and diverse activities that you'd see therein. And that's essentially simulation in a nutshell. It's fun. I think it's fun anyway. The patient care experience, Dr. Gray is going to talk through that. But basically, this is the layout. So the site requires us to orient you to the facility. So the first visit there, when you all come at the same time, is just sort of getting to know the staff, getting to know what kind of care is provided, the type of people that live in that environment, the services that they offer. The first visit is really just getting to know your resident. The second visit, when you come back, is looking more at their perspective on more health-focused topics. And in the spring, you'll have a second visit where you have to participate in some sort of activity. And you can elect that. So let's say they're having movie night. You and a friend can go over and watch Finding Nemo with a bunch of seniors. Maybe you're more of a crafts person and you want to be there when they're doing macrame. You can do that. Maybe you're very competitive and you want to do bingo. Maybe it's chair volleyball because you're a little more on the physical competitive side. Whatever you want to do, you pick and sign up. They're usually an hour long. It's a great way to spend an afternoon. Those people are awesome. So it's just getting to see them in a little different light. And because our healthcare system is exploding in terms of the senior population, that's something you're going to see all the time in your future careers. As far as interprofessional education, this is actually going to have its own D2L page, which you'll be added to, that will have communication that comes through. So I'm not going to talk a ton about IPE. It's only those 4 condensed weeks in the semester, 2 visits, but the focus is going to be on 2 separate areas. The first visit is about values and ethics of interprofessional teams. The second one is about teams and teamwork and team dynamics. So how does it work when you have a pharmacist who wants to lead the way and a physician that disagrees and a nurse that's caught in the middle and an occupational therapist that is trying to make everybody happy? So that is kind of what the focus will be in the fall. And then in the spring, it'll be communication and roles and responsibilities. So there should be very minimal prep for these. All you do is just pretty much show up. And that will all be communicated with you by Dr. Cross through a second D2L page. Okay, the one that people typically have the most questions about and where I'm going to spend the most time and slow down, because I know I've kind of been flying through this, is service. So this is the one that I don't provide so much guidance on. You guys go out and find. So let's walk through what this looks like. So there's a total of 10 hours. Do we need to breathe? Do we need to stretch? We feeling okay? I'm seeing a lot of overwhelmed looks. Woosah. Okay, it's gonna be fine, guys. I haven't lost a P1 yet. Okay, service. So service is self-selected, which I think is good. So you can pick if you want to do 5 flu shot clinics. Well, then you go right ahead. You do that. You build those vaccination skills. If you want a little bit of diversity, if you're super excited about RAM, I'm super excited about RAM, then you can do that too. So there's a lot of ability to pick and choose what you want, and you get credit for it. Scroll down here. What are the parameters? Well, this is it. You have to have 10 hours, and we divide those hours into 2 categories. Okay? Professional service and personal development. Professional service are healthcare related activities. So things like flu clinics, if you want to go to a health fair, if you want to build a handout and hand it out at your local Walmart store with their pharmacy at one of their health outreach days. If you want to talk to patients at your church about the importance of medication disposal, if you want to participate in a drug take-back event, all of those things have a medical focus, and they would fall under professional service. Okay? You have to have 6 hours of professional service, and the only caveat is, well, A, I approve everything, and B, the max you can claim for any event is 2 hours. So if you have a drug take-back event, or if you go to RAM and your shift is a 4-hour shift, the most you can claim is 2 hours. The reason I do that is to try to get you a little more diversity and experience. So really we're only looking at, if you do all 2-hour events, you're looking at 3 activities. And then the other category, 2 activities, a total of 5 different things. I don't think that's too much to ask, and I don't, knowing how activities run, I'm a student organization advisor, there's usually some downtime, there's time when patients aren't there, so generally those 4 hours are probably when you're actually in it and doing things, maybe a little less. So we do it also to provide a little buffer so that we're making sure that we're really capturing the appropriate amount of input. Did I see a question for here? Okay, so professional service, 6 hours. That's the bulk of them. Then you've got personal development activities. And these can look one of 2 ways. They can be things that improve you as an individual, or they can be things that improve the community. So if you want to volunteer at the Washington County Humane Society or the animal shelter, that's great. I think that's wonderful. I'll give you 2 hours of credit for that. If you want to go to Dr. Michelle Williams' talk on study strategies over a lunch period next week, I'm just making that up. I don't know if she's actually having one. She's having one later on this fall. That's great. That's an awesome opportunity. It will develop you as a person. That's totally worth service hours. You'll know because we're going to post sign-ups. So events will be promoted saying that they've been approved for service hours. You can also find your own opportunities. So maybe you, through your employer, find out that there's a continuing education program that all interns at Ingalls are able to attend. I'll approve that. You just send it in to me. Maybe you want to shadow. Where would shadowing fall? If you want to shadow a pharmacist in maybe oncology, you want to reach out to Dr. Bazar and go see what it's like to practice in an oncology center. So I actually would count that as professional service. But I would say that shadowing is my kind of low priority. I'd like you to go out and find more active ways to serve patients, but I'll count shadowing actually as professional service. That one's probably the only sort of oddball. Okay, so this is sort of a great visual graphic of how this is laid out. Now let's talk about process. So what's eligible? Well, I don't care if you find them, if a student organization sponsors them. Is it related to eligibility or related to hours?
Hours.
Okay, go for it.
Would you be able to count towards professional development if you shadowed?
So some people ask that too, like if I've got one set of hours but I want to apply it to something else, do they roll? They don't roll. I keep them in one category or another. Generally what upperclassmen will tell you is there's a gazillion personal development opportunities. There's no way you couldn't probably hammer these out this month, maybe by September. Professional service sometimes take you a little longer to find, and the bulk of those are provided by student organizations. So if you needed an incentive to join a student org, professional service hours are it, I would say. But it's very plausible to do them without organizational membership, if that's not something you're interested. Okay, so eligibility. As mentioned, yeah, they can be sponsored by an organization. They can be things that you find. They can be things within the college or not. It doesn't really matter. They just need to make sure that the activity meets the criteria for those different categories of hours. So once you identify an opportunity, you have to submit an approval form. And it just looks like this, and it's very straightforward. What type, what's the name, date, is there a sponsoring organization, and some information. What I'll tell you as P1s is generally the student organization will fill this out, and I'll approve it, and then when they go and pitch it to you all to sign up for, it'll already be approved. If it's already approved for hours, you don't need to fill out another form. That's just redundant. So if you get an announcement or something through Facebook or email that says, hey, this activity is available for an hour of professional service, sign up. You don't need to send me anything. I've already looked at it. It's already good. If it's something that you identify and no one else has pitched it or it's unique to you, then send it in. Sound okay? But it's straightforward. It basically just asks what are you going to do, who's going to watch you do it, kind of give me some description. Once I approve it, which is usually pretty quick turnaround, I'll award hours. I ask that if you're going to seek approval for an event, you give me some time, because approving an event that happens tomorrow, you know, I need to have a little bit of time to look at it just in case. So try to give me 3 weeks before the activity happens when you ask for hours for it. Generally, I approve probably 90% of what crosses my email. The things that may cause your activity not to be awarded hours are or that you may receive pushback on, are you giving too many service hours for the activity? So is there something funky with the activity and the number of hours that are being asked for it? Is the level of student volunteer appropriate for the activity? So if I see somebody pitch an activity from your class that's like, we're going to go out and educate people about antiretrovirals for use in HIV, I'm going to say, I don't think so, because I don't think you guys are quite comfortable yet to be talking about that kind of therapy. If I see somebody wanting to do a P1 event that's, let's talk about the benefits of getting rid of your expired drugs, that's perfect for you guys. That's right where you are. Flu shot clinics, once you get trained, is perfect. Once you're in OTC, you can talk about all sorts of things, but we try to sort of scale it by to make sure that you're not going to be put in positions where you can't answer the questions you're asked. Sometimes I push back if there's like 20 people at an activity. If there's a health fair and you've got 20 slots, I'm going to say that's a lot of people standing around. That probably is not going to go very well. So we probably need to be a little more restrictive because we want it to be a good experience for you. That's my goal. Okay, so once I approve it, which largely I always approve, we're going to have a sign-up open. These sign-ups are going to be dependent on who pitches the event. So I mentioned student organizations pitch a lot of events. Some student organizations will say that it's a members-only event, and then they will handle the sign-up. Some student organizations will say, no, anybody can show up, in which case our office sends out the sign-up and anyone can sign up. Sometimes there are limits on the number of people that can be accommodated. So that's really the only limitation. My office sometimes finds opportunities for you with external partners. So I partner with Walgreens, Food City, sometimes independent pharmacies about getting student volunteers for flu clinics. So you'll see those come out. But it is not, the responsibility is not on me to find your hours. So while I will provide some opportunities, ultimately you all are responsible for identifying activities. And I am happy to help you pitch ideas. I'll pitch ideas all day long for how you can get your hours. You just have to ask. But I'm not going to go and find them for you. Sign-ups are a first-come, first-served basis. And we'll try to give a little bit sometimes of a cap either on total numbers or number by class. And that's usually just based on what we're asking you to do. After an event, what do you have to do? Well, you've got to turn in some sort of proof that you were there. So there will be a sign-in sheet. Make sure you sign in. Make sure someone turns that in. Because we do audit you. And then after you participated, you also have to log your hours. So I'm not going to know what, I don't know any of your names to even pick on you. I'm not going to know what Jonathan does because I've seen the approval, but he may not have submitted the activity. So he's going to have to document his hours, and we audit those. So there's a Google form, and this is another simple one. So all you would do is put in identifiers, so email address, first and last name, which year in the program are you, so you guys would click P1, the date of the event, how much time you spent, the type, and then when you click next, you'll get a list of all approved activities under that type of hour. And you just pick which one, hit submit, and that's it. Please don't wait to do this. It's super simple. You will forget what hours you participated in if you wait. And then I'm going to have to hound you to do it, and you don't want to see all those grumpy emails in your inbox. So just log them as you go. It's a whole lot easier. Unfortunately, there's no way for you to pull up what you've logged. So I send out monthly audits of, hey, here's how you're doing, or this is what my records show. And then if there's any discrepancy, just let me know. But generally that seems to work pretty well. So that's the process. Now, the question might be, when can I do these hours? What do you think? Could you do these hours during, let's see if I scroll down here, next Wednesday, August 22nd in the afternoon during IPPE time? How about, let's make it active. How about a show of hands, yes? Okay, show of hands, no. So yeah, there's nothing on your calendar, so you can absolutely use those open IPPE blocks. What about Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. when you're supposed to be in with Dr. Melton and Dr. Cross and CPOP? No, so I will not approve events during class time. You can't skip class to go do an event. I know there's great opportunities out there, but I wouldn't want people missing my class for that, so I can't do that to somebody else. Okay, so I got that one. What about, you are now magically a P3 student, and Dr. Melton gives credit if you go to different lunch and learns. They're like lunchtime sessions where she brings in guest speakers. And she teaches neuropsych, so she brings in people who suffer from diseases like schizophrenia or depression, so you can kind of put a person with a disease. So she's going to give you bonus points in class. Can you claim that for service hours? You can't. So I also don't let you double dip. So it can't count for two different things. It can't count for class and for this class. That's two separate classes. That's a no can do. What if you rush Phi Delta Chi and they say, well, you have to do X number of events, and those can be professional development events or service events to keep your membership in our fraternity. Yeah, I don't care if those cross over. It's not for a class, there's no grade. So that's totally fine. If it's a requirement of membership for some organization, that's totally fine. What if you have a flu shot clinic at your place of employment? So you work at Kroger, there's a flu shot clinic, your boss says, hey, we'd love to have an intern there, we'll even pay you some, you can clock in. Can you count that for service hours? It's a double dipper. Yeah, you can't get paid to do service hours. So if you are a Kroger employee, if you are a Walgreens employee, it's fine if you do flu clinics with them. Just do it on days when you're not clocked in. Yeah. Let's see. What about, oh, this is a good one. What about doing a continuing education program that counts towards the requirement of if you're like a certified pharmacy technician. Certified pharmacy technicians sometimes have to do CE. Could you apply for that CE to be approved for professional development? You can. Again, it's not a course, so it's double dipping, but it's nothing curricular, so that's totally fine with me. Okay, I'm trying to pick out ones that are questions that I have frequently. What about, here we go, we're just going to rapid fire them. You're asked to help serve at a church dinner for members of your church. So maybe they're doing like a revival, or they're doing some sort of homecoming thing, or some church dinner, and it's for members. It's a nice social event. Could you count that for service hours? We need a yes, no. So I would say no, because it's not really community service. So if it was like a pancake breakfast and the whole community was invited, that's great. That's benefiting the broader audience. If it's an event for a group, it's not community service because it's not broad enough. How about you're serving as a student ambassador, or you're tutoring another student, you sign up as a tutor? Could you count that as service hours? I would say no, because again, there's a benefit to doing that, and sometimes we do nice things just because we do nice things, but we can't get credit for them. To me, student ambassador does not particularly fit the intent of the categories of service hours. So if you remember, we've got professional service that has to be medical. Student ambassador, if you're just greeting potential students that are coming into the program, there's not really anything medical education going on there. Professional development, I mean, maybe you could say that you're getting more comfortable speaking in front of an audience, but again, I think that's kind of a loose line, so I would probably say no, that's not going to work. Okay, how about this one? How about you have this brilliant idea that you're going to do an activity with your friends called Wine Wednesdays, and it's going to be a series of roundtable events for professional development. And I hope you invite me, because that sounds awesome. Wine Wednesdays. Can I approve that for service hours? I cannot approve anything that has alcohol at it, unfortunately. So I can't incentivize. Yeah. So if you tweak it a little bit, you know, maybe make it like coffee and conversation or something. I don't know. Coffee, totally fine. Wine, probably no. Okay. Last one. How about? Oh no. How about? No, I have a couple more. I'm sorry. What if CPFI wants to host a fundraiser for a charity? Their charity of choice is Miles for Smiles. They help bring dentistry to underprivileged children. Can I approve that for service hours? I actually don't, because it's too hard to figure out. Like if I don't know your name, but what's your name? If Jacqueline says, "Well, I contributed to that fundraiser," well, I don't know what kind of time that was. If in like you took that money then and went and did things at the charity, absolutely I can approve that. But just giving money to a cause is not really participation in a service activity. Are we seeing the difference? Okay. Last one, there's a featured speaker on campus discussing the importance of bees in our ecosystem. Service hour worthy or no? You're thinking about professional development. Would I approve that for professional development? While it's a great topic, very, very important, it's not really relevant at all to pharmacy or to the development of a practitioner. It's super interesting, but it's not within the scope. Now, if it's something like time management or how to best portray yourself on interview days, or dealing with test anxiety, all of those things are applicable to you all, and they would help you develop as a better professional. So those I would approve. Bees and ecosystems, great, just not really relevant. Okay. Now we're going to do a little voting, and then Dr. Kerr, I'll turn it over to you. So you tell me which category this would be. Professional service, community service, or professional development. And I feel like we've gotten most of these, but just in case. Generation RX wants to do a youth presentation about the dangers of using opioids. What category? Somebody over here. Professional service, professional development, community service. Yep, I'll talk louder. Hang on, let me pull up here. Now you guys have my cheat sheet. Okay, so it can be one of these hours. Professional service here. Oh heck, I'm even going to draw for you. Maybe. Where is that thing? Okay. You've got this option, or this option. Make it super straightforward. Okay. One more time. So, the Generation RX organization is doing youth presentations about the dangers of opioid misuse. They're presenting it to a group of junior high kids. Okay. It is professional service. So opioids are drugs. So that falls into a medical piece. That's up here. What about a soup kitchen? Volunteering in a soup kitchen. Community service. That one's straightforward. What about a media day training? So APHA ASP in the past has done a media day training where you learn how to interact with reporters. Professional development, because pharmacists are often on TV. That's a good one. How about advocacy visit with an area senator? Ooh, that's a tough one. Okay, so you're meeting with Representative Phil Rowe and trying to get him to get on board with Senate Bill, whatever it is, about pharmacists getting provider status. Professional service. So you're doing something on the service of the profession. It's medically related. You're not really developing yourself, although you are. Professional service, you're always getting better yourself. But it's professional service. How about a local, state, regional, or national meeting? So you are going to attend a Tennessee Pharmacists Association meeting in February. Professional development. What if it falls during a class day? So TPA meeting is often Friday through Sunday. Student program is almost always on Friday. Am I going to approve it or no? Oh, you guys are going to kill me. I do approve those because you can't move a professional meeting. It is what it is. So I will give you a pass to miss class for professional meetings. I know. Just don't shoot the messenger. Oh, guys. So clear as mud, right? Okay. Too funny. Yes.
So theoretically, if there was a RAM clinic in Jefferson City,
Uh-huh.
August 25th
Uh-huh.
this month, could that potentially?
That's a great question. So the question was RAM clinics. Does anybody know what RAM is? You guys heard RAM? So RAM is this really neat thing that we have in our area. It stands for Remote Area Medical, and it's basically bringing in medical services to underserved healthcare deserts or places where there aren't providers. They do a ton of dentistry, but they'll do primary care. Some sites have a pharmacy. We do a lot of naloxone education, which is what's used in opioid overdoses, and our students train thousands of people annually. We would love for you all to experience that because it's very regional specific. It's a great opportunity to give back to our communities. So that would absolutely be approved as professional service, and you are absolutely welcome to volunteer there. Our college, actually, Generation RX committee will put out a lot of calls for student volunteers. We'll do trainings for you to learn how to train other people on how to use naloxone. But yeah, you can find your own. The one on your schedule, somebody had brought that up. Sorry, shield your eyes, I'm scrolling fast. Here in November, I would probably put that on your calendar, November 2nd, because A, it's a Friday, but the college is actually going to cancel classes so that you can participate in this event. We think it's such a great opportunity that we would love as many students as possible to be there. I did it last year. It's life-changing. That was probably my 5th RAM, I think. But it's right around the corner. Appalachian Fairgrounds is about 3 exits up on 26. It's awesome. There are other ones in Southwest Virginia that our Generation RX committee goes to. But this one will have probably opportunities for, I'd say, 50% of our student body to help. So please keep that one on your calendar. And if you're able to participate, we'd love to have you. Sign-ups will be coming in the future. Yeah, Jacqueline?
Do we have a test that day?
Which chest?
Human physiology?
Okay, I'll look into it. I thought we were canceling class, were we not,
I
Dr.
like
Kerr?
skip that one. I had to do it on site.
Oh man, you guys are just coming out of the woodwork with these problems. What did I do to deserve this? Okay, I saw one in the back. Yes, ma'am.
So the 10 hours of the service hours is
10
over the whole,
That's a great question. Yes. So 10 hours of service is over the entire year. Can you do them on breaks? Absolutely. Can you do them on holidays? Absolutely. So if you're not doing anything fall break, Labor Day, Veterans Day you guys get this year. I mean, veterans, it's great to celebrate veterans, but there's a lot of flexibility. Maybe do something for veterans on that day that's health related. I think that'd be great. So yeah, absolutely. I will tell you that there's more opportunities generally in the fall than there are in the spring because flu clinics. There's a lot of flu clinics and we just don't vaccinate as much in the spring. So you are probably behooved to try to find some hours now versus later. And then last question.
I found my answer.
Did you find your answer? Okay. I'll be around at some point, I'm sure. So if you do have questions, feel free to email me. My office is in Building 60 if you want to just stop by. It's going to be fine, guys. I'll figure out about your test. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, is everyone doing okay? Do we need to take a couple-minute break before we continue? Okay, let's take maybe 5 minutes, take a quick break. You have some applications that you need to fill out too, so if you're not taking a break, it might be a good time to work on those. So go ahead. Everybody ready to go? Okay. So I wanted to, first of all, I know you had a chance to be introduced to our office on Monday, but just to give you another introduction, I was unable to make it on Monday. So first of all, my name's Susie Crow. I'm the Director of Experiential Education. I have my email address on there. Annalisa Mills is our Director of Operations. She'll be working with you a lot on when you make your selections for rotations in October, November timeframe. Then Debbie Frakes. Debbie, will you just sitting at the back of the room? She's our office coordinator. You'll work with her a lot on various things from site requirements to cornerstone experience and things like that. So,
Or you know me as a donut.
yeah, or the donut lady. Our office is right over the porch, so if you go up the steps to the 3rd floor, and we're the only office on the right when you get to the top of the steps. And so my office actually just recently moved. I'm in 317, so I'm a little bit separate from that. But if you need us, feel free to come up to our office. I know you got a brief introduction to this when Dr. Alexander was here a few minutes ago, but we do have, IPPE is kind of a confusing thing because we have IPPE during the year, we have IPPE during the summer, and so a lot of what she talked to you today about was the IPPE during the year, so the course that you're enrolled in for the fall and the spring. What I am mostly referring to is that IPPE during the summer, and that's what our office does, is schedule your summer rotations, but a lot of the things that you do throughout the year build into what we're asking you to do over the summer. So they're connected, but it can be kind of confusing. And then IPPE stands for Introductory Pharmacy Practice Experience. Your 4th year, you'll go on to APPE, or Advanced Pharmacy Practice Experience, and that's where you spend 9 months on rotations. You'll be on rotations from May through April, have a couple of months off somewhere in between there, but that's generally what we're talking about. Just to know what your experiential rotations are as you look at the next 3 years ahead of you, which by the way will go very fast. So we do have you do a 2-week community pharmacy rotation this coming summer. So when you finish your coursework for your P1 year, you'll do a 2-week community rotation at some point during the summer. And then after that, after your 2nd year, you'll do a 2-week institutional pharmacy rotation, the summer following your P2 year, and you'll also do a 1-week clinical pharmacy rotation the summer following your P2 year. So you'll have 3 weeks after your P2 year, 2 weeks after your P1 year that you'll do rotations. I do want to just briefly mention, I know we have a lot of students here that are from different areas of the country. We do have the possibility of trying to work with you and trying to set something up so that you can do a rotation at home. Possibly, what a lot of students honestly do is just do them in the area, and they'll do it right after they finish their coursework in May. Go straight to their 2-week community, and then they go home for the summer. Or on the flip side, they may do it right before they start their P2 year. So they just come back 2 weeks early, do the rotation, and then start this semester. So that's what the vast majority of students seem to do, but we do have the option that you can work with us to set something up. We do have very tight deadlines on that, and so that's why I wanted to mention it today. Because of all the paperwork that it takes and us getting preceptors that agree to take you and things like that, our deadline's actually September 15th. And so we're talking a month, basically, that if you want to have a rotation possibly next summer at home, we need to have the paperwork together by no later than September 15th. And so, how many people think that they might want to do something like this? So I see a few hands raised. What I would suggest for you to do is just come up to our office at some point, really this week, and we have various forms for you to fill out. We can pull up on our computer system various sites that are available that we already have that you may not be aware of, and we can help direct you on that process. Debbie, do you want to say anything about that?
Are we gonna send out the email this afternoon?
We're also going to send you out an email with links, but I think that it would be better for you to work with our office on what's available versus what is not available already. And so we'll send out the links, and then I would ask that you talk to Debbie, and Debbie will talk to you about the sites, and then you can fill out the forms after that.
With y'all going to Milligan this afternoon and White Coat tomorrow, you can wait till next week, but I would do it earlier in the week.
Yeah, don't put it off. Right now, you don't have anything on your schedule with classes or anything, so if you can do it this week, it would be better. I understand next week, is also fine. You won't have a lot of other things to worry about with your first week of school yet either. So, okay, so I wanted to mention what areas we consider in the Tri-Cities region, because within this region, we have a ton of sites already. And so when you're thinking of sites that are possibly at home, areas like Abingdon, Virginia, we consider that in the Tri-Cities region. Bluffville, Bluff City, Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, Morristown, Rogersville, Unicoi. And so we have a whole lot of sites within really what is about an hour and a half drive of the college that we consider within region. But areas like Asheville, areas like Knoxville, those are not considered within region. And so I just wanted to mention that, even though those are within an hour and a half drive of the college, because there are other colleges there who are also using rotation sites, we don't typically consider those within region. And so if you're thinking that area and thinking it's close enough, it may not be. And so again, you need to talk to Debbie just to make sure if it's not one of these cities that are listed here and you're interested in going home, you need to come and talk to us. So, there are some policies in the student handbook. Have you all been talked to about the student handbook? Some yet? You have? Okay. So at the very end of that, we have some policies for experiential education that kind of highlight how we set up sites, how we work with you guys to set up your rotations, any types of deadlines, like the September 15th deadline is actually in that policy. So again, it would be good for you to review that, especially as we approach November when you're looking at putting in your spin choices. So the spin, by the way, is where we give you the opportunity to put in 20 different selections of what rotation you might want over the summer and the time frame, and then somewhere in January, early January, you'll find out what your schedule is for the summer. And so that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the spin. Transitioning from that, I would just like to talk about a few things that will make you successful in your IPPE year. So first of all, you need to check your email, and you need to check it fairly frequently. And I know that seems like a crazy thing to ask, but we have students that don't check their email very frequently. Because we're not in front of you as a course, Dr. Alexander said this is the last time we have you all together as a group. Our main way of communicating with you is through email. So if you're missing a site requirement, we can't send you to Cornerstone, for example, if you don't have that site requirement. You don't pass the course if you don't have that site requirement because you can't go to Cornerstone. So check your email, especially a lot between September, October when these requirements are due, but also throughout the year. Appropriate dress we'll talk about on the next couple of slides. Attendance, because this is a pass-fail course, and things like corners, every piece of it is important. And so Dr. Alexander had mentioned making sure you have a planner to try to figure out where you need to be when, because if you miss one component, you may fail the course, because every component adds together to the course so that you can pass it. Updating your contact information, some of your contact information that the school may have, maybe your home information for the summer. Again, sometimes we may text you if we don't reach you by email, and so if your phone number's changed, if your addresses or any of your contact information's changed, they change that through Wendy Williams, right? On the second floor, and so make sure that that information is updated so that we can reach you if we need to. So looking at appropriate dress, you're going to hear various classes talk about IPPE attire. It's not just our course, but it's a certain way that we want you to dress, which is just professionally, when you're on rotations, when you're coming to your simulations, and so basically that is business casual. So for women, that would be dresses to the knees or lower, basically, blouses, sweaters, nothing too low cut. For men, dress pants, shirt and tie, or even a polo shirt is okay. But for men, you need to wear socks. Any tattoos need to be covered, and no extensive jewelry, hairstyles, or anything like that. So just basic business attire.
Statement,
Yes,
on the tattoo thing, women also have to cover tattoos.
yes. And then when we talk about IPPE attire, it's not just what you're wearing, but making sure you have your lab jacket, you have your name tag, you have any equipment that you might need, such as a stethoscope or whatever applies to whatever lab you're going to. All of that together adds up to IPPE attire. Does anybody have any questions about dress in general? Yes.
I know like for lab, they said about the closed-toed shoe. Does that mean like the whole foot or just your toes? Kind of like with flats, you can't cover the top of your foot. Will
Right.
that count with that too?
There'll be a few exceptions to where you really need something to cover your whole foot, and the exception would be your P2 year. You'll do IV room simulations, and you're playing with needles basically, and so you want something to cover your whole foot. But otherwise, you're fine with wearing flats or shoes that don't cover the whole foot. Any other questions? Okay, so moving on. Each one of you got a checklist, or should have gotten this checklist when you walked into the room. So the Cornerstone experience is that patient care experience that you have sometime in October, November, where you're going out to an assisted living facility and working with patients there. That facility has a lot of requirements that they want you to have before you can show up at their site. So if you don't have this list done, you don't go to the Cornerstone experience. You don't pass the course, basically. So this list is very, very important. Looking down through the list, we have a confidentiality statement and an application. These are the two things that we handed out to you today. What would be optimal is if you fill these out before you leave this room today, turn them in, and then you have these two requirements done. Because of time, I'm not sure that we're actually going to have time. I had planned to give you about 10 minutes now to fill this out, but we're running a little short on time. But if you can fill these out before you leave the building today and run them up to room 301, it would be great. So those are the first two things on this checklist. Everybody that was here for the HIPAA training can check off the HIPAA training off your list, so it's already done. The OSHA training I have here. So here's the website that you can go to, and these slides will be saved to your D2L page along with the Tegrity. So you can go back and listen to the recording, or you can just look at the slides. But this has the website that you need to go to for the training, which happens to be if you're doing HIPAA training online. I know we had at least one student that missed the HIPAA training this morning, and so if you're doing HIPAA training, this is the site you need to go to, but also for OSHA training. These are the session, it is the same.
She put the HIP on a different server, it's got Next something.
It's the same. If you go to this website, it goes to Nexus Trainer. I checked it this morning.
They changed our site.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't
yeah.
know that, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, but it will be the same place.
Okay.
So all of these things, and what we've tried to do with all of these requirements, just to make it simplified for you, is the vast majority of things on here are due by October 5th. So there's an October 5th deadline on there. You all were asking about your calendar, the green OEE mark on your calendar. It's for this. And so I would mark it on your calendar, even though it's not an event that you have to show up for, just because it's so important that you get everything done here. While you guys aren't in classes this week and don't have a lot going on in the evening, I would suggest going ahead and getting these OSHA trainings done so that you don't have to worry about it later. It doesn't take very long. I've done all of these trainings. It doesn't take very long, but it's definitely worth just going ahead and doing it. You can save a copy of your completion certificate. We're not really asking you to turn those certificates in, because what happens is the OSHA training for ETSU will tell us who's completed it. And so we get a list of who's completed it. But if there's ever a question of whether you actually did or didn't, for example, if your name doesn't show on their list but you did complete it, this is when you would want to have a certificate showing that you did. So I highly suggest you save your certificate. So that covers the OSHA training on here. Your BLS certification. Debbie, do you know what the plan is for that? I think it's on their schedule.
I think it's on their schedule through Michelle and Stephen Bear.
Right.
They're gonna give y'all dates and
Right.
we'll all know.
Right. So you
Now, the renewal, you'll get an email to revalue, so you gotta pay attention to your renewal.
But that's next year or 2 years down the road, and so we'll worry about that then. But for now, you should have either a session scheduled, or Michelle Graybill will be giving you a list of possible sessions that you need to go to. Again, we need to have it done before October 5th.
She needs a copy of your actual BLS card.
Yeah, so once you complete it, she'll ask you for a copy that they can hold in their office of your card. For your TB skin test, everyone really should be up to date on that at this point, since you're just starting. At some point that you, for example, next year we'll have to update it, and so, but for now, you should be good. Same thing with the annual background check. So right now, you should have a background check in order to be admitted into the college, and so everyone in this room should be good. There may be a couple of students that are coming back from last year that had to take a leave. For that case, you will have to go through the Office of Student Affairs, right? I always get confused. So Office of Student Affairs to get your background checks done. And so, but everyone, if you're just starting here, you should be okay on that requirement and can check it off. The next thing on here is your annual flu vaccine. There's some information in that middle section on this chart that gives you what we actually need you to bring to our office. So this is a piece of documentation you have to bring to 301 so that we know that you've done it. You can either email it to us. We gave you our email address at the beginning. You can fax it to us, or you can just drop the paper by our office. If we're not there, you can put it under the door. Yes?
If you fax, you need to let us know that you faxed it. Our machine is a little cantankerous.
Yeah.
And also, pay attention to what the receipt needs to state. We
Yeah.
need to know name and address where you got it, the strain, the expiration date. There's a big list of what they
Yeah.
will accept, and
And it's in that
form,
middle
and
section.
Make sure your receipt has it. Like
Right.
CVS will give you like a prescription printout. Some of the pharmacies will do that for a flu shot. Those are perfect. But
Right.
if you go to your doctor's office or anything else, just make sure all that information is on there.
Right. And the school typically plans a flu shot vaccination day sometime before this deadline. Usually I think it's Walgreens that sponsors it. You can get it done there. I forget how much it costs, but then it's done and out of the way. I don't know that the new flu vaccine is here yet or available yet. So you may have to wait a few weeks before you do this, but we still need it before October 5th. Again, it has to be this year's flu vaccine. And so if you're going to ask CVS or Walgreens and see if you can go ahead and get it, make sure it's this coming year's flu vaccine, not the old one from last year. The next thing on the list is your 10-panel drug screen. It has to be a 10-panel. It can't be an 8-panel, can't be a 7-panel. It has to be a 10-panel drug screen. There are some special requirements with this in the timing, because Cornerstone wants you to have it no more than, I think, 2 weeks before, or
It
a
has
month.
to be in that window.
Yeah, before you show up. And so we've given you specific dates. So the dates here are September 25th through October 5th. That's the time frame you can get this done. Don't get it done before because they won't accept it. And so make sure you're doing it after September 25th. What I would like for you to do right now is everyone just put a reminder on your calendar for September 24th so that you know right now that starting that day you have to worry about your flu vaccine. Or I'm sorry, you have to worry about your 10-panel drug screen. Yes?
Mail ranking,
Huh?
mail ranking.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I'm just going to give them a chance to put it on there. So while you guys are adding it, yes, go ahead. Yes, so that's exact. While you guys are putting this on your calendar, I'll talk about it. So if you look at that middle section, there are a couple of places we already know do these urine drug screens. We do this every year. We go through these two places, and so one of them is the main campus student health center. So there is a cost associated with these two, so make sure you're planning for that as well. But the main campus student health center, the cost is $41 when you go. You have to call and make an appointment. So you can call and make an appointment for after September 24th, I'm assuming right now, and I would actually recommend that you do that. Once you look at your class schedule, make sure it fits within, because their hours are only 8 to 4:30. So if you have some free IPPE time or some free other time, I'll go ahead and schedule an appointment. The other thing that's important to know is it's not just your class that has to do this, it's all three. So P1, P2, and P3, everyone has the same deadlines. Occasionally they run out of these urine drug screen tests. So I wouldn't recommend waiting till October 5th to see if you can get it, and then you're scrambling to try to find a place to do it. I would recommend trying to do it within those first couple of days of this. And then if there is an issue, you have time to deal with it. So you have to call for an appointment. If anyone is on any medication such as Adderall or Ritalin or something like that, a pain medication that might show up on a urine drug screen, don't go to this student health center because they won't look at your med list. They'll just say you failed the urine drug screen. And so you need to go, if there are any medications that you're on that might show up on a urine drug screen that are legitimate prescriptions for something, I recommend that you go to this other place that's listed there. And so it does cost a little bit more, but they'll reconcile your list, your medication list with your urine drug screen. So this is MedWorks Occupational Medicine. It's located in the Wellness Center, which is close to Franklin Woods Hospital. If you need information about how to get there, please, again, ask our office. We can give you more direct information about that. The cost, again, is $53. They are open a little bit later, so that makes it a little bit easier for you if you're having classes until 5 p.m. To try to get there and do it. I think they said the last appointment they'll take, though, is at 5:15, and you have to come ready to provide the sample for the urine sample for the drug screen. So again, if you're doing that, make sure if you're going 5:15, make sure you're drinking a lot of water before you go, or they won't do the urine drug screen that day. Yes.
Don't go to any of the urgent cares.
Yeah.
The Fallon Health merger, where MSHA or Mountain States and the Wellmont urgent cares have merged, both of them are sending us to the MedWorks.
Right.
So you cannot just go to one of these clinics and have it done.
Right.
They'll turn you away.
You can, if you know that your home physician has a 10-panel urine drug screen, you're absolutely welcome to use that, and they can send us the results that you passed the urine drug screen. So again, not a lot of physicians that I know of carry specifically a 10-panel urine drug screen. So it's something that you'd want to call and make sure they have the correct test, because again, if you get a 7-panel, it's not really going to fulfill this requirement. You'll still have to get a 10-panel. So make sure you're clear on what they have if you're doing that. And then the information on the far right tells you what we need. So we don't need you to bring your test results to us, because we don't want to see your test results, basically. That's your own private health information. All I need to know is that you passed the screening, and we get that information from the place where you get the test. And so they can fax it to us, or they can, that's the main way, right? Faxing it to us, or email, I guess, or bringing something that says that you passed the result or the test. So again, please don't bring us.
Do not handle them.
Huh?
The students should not handle them.
Right. Right. So then it would have to be faxed to us. Please do not bring us your results. So make sure that you're clear on that. Make sure that they know where to send the results once you have your lab done. And if you're going to these two places, they know where to send the results, so you should be okay there. But please remember, there are about 80 of you. There are about 80 in the P2 class and about 80 in the P3 class. Everyone will be getting this screen done at the same time. So. And then the last thing on here is an annual professionalism contract, which is in eValue. Did everyone get their eValue username and password? Did you? Yeah. Did everyone get an email that had their username and password? If we could go ahead and pull up eValue right now. Give you a couple minutes to pull it up. When you sign in with that username and password, this should be the screen that you see. And if you look in that dark blue tab, there's a thing that says home page. So if it doesn't look quite like this, click on that home page tab.
I did some spot checking, so I'm hoping they showed up for everyone.
Okay. Is everyone on right now? Or getting on? Yes. You don't have an email with your username and password? Okay.
I don't have one either.
You don't have one either?
I don't have one.
Okay. Everyone that doesn't have one, please make sure Debbie knows your name so that we can get that to you later.
Yeah, because we send it out as a big group listing through eValue, so if you didn't get one, let's find out one.
Okay, so what are your names? Who just said that? We'll go ahead and check on it. Yeah, what's your name?
Sandra Hill.
Sandra.
Cassandra Hill.
Cassandra Hill?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your name?
Brandy Hall.
Brady Hall. And who else raised their hand?
Oh, too fast.
We have multiples.
Brandy Hall?
Yes.
Yeah. Who else? Do you have an email that has?
No.
Okay, what's your name?
Stephanie Tran.
Stephanie Tran. And your name? Lucas Arnold.
Okay, you need to check your junk file also then, because some have it and some don't. I would say check your file because we have 1, 2, something, definitely.
Anybody find it in their junk file? Okay. Anyone else missing the email with the username and password?
Most of these kids don't have their professionalism contract yet.
They don't? Okay. You got it? Okay. Stephanie found hers. And you got yours too? Yeah.
Okay.
Lucas and Stephanie found theirs. Okay. Are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
So are we supposed to submit this right now? Because when I click into the document, it says right here.
So it sounds like it may not be showing up right now. And so what I have on the next few slides kind of walks you through how to sign it, where you need to click and everything. So first of all, I want you all to take the time to actually read through this, because what this is, I mean, I know you've had a session on professionalism on Monday. Some of this may be duplications, but some of it is completely different for your institutional rotations that you have over the summer. So for example, we ask you to contact your preceptors at least 2 weeks in advance of the rotation. You probably didn't talk about that on Monday, and so all of those expectations are spelled out in here, and it's really important that you read through it. Yes?
On the login, it says it asks for institutional code. Do we have one?
You can log in without it? Okay. So again, go back and read through this document, make sure that you understand everything. It's in your D2L, but when you pull it up in here to sign the contract, it'll also pull up the document there that you can read it. And then this basically just walks you through what you need to do. So when you are signing this, you can click on the urgent tasks. It'll have a complete pending evaluation. We send it out we put it in on Monday, but it sounds like not everyone's having it show up under complete pending evaluation. Does anyone have it actually showing up there? If you click on this complete pending evaluation where the red arrow is, does anyone have an evaluation showing up there? No one does. Okay, so we'll get it sent out today. Again, this is important that you fulfill this to meet your requirements for the year. Okay, and then when you do get this contract showing up, and we'll send out an email, again, when we know it's showing up, you hit edit evaluation, there where the red arrow is, and then you'll have to do each one of these things. So basically this slide walks you through exactly what you need to do in order to sign this contract. If you have any problems signing this, please come up to our office and we can help you do it. It only really takes a few minutes, but we can walk you through what you need to do if you need that. One other thing I wanted to show you in eValue, if you're on your home page, there's a section that says how to generate your immunization and certification status report. A lot of these requirements are listed on that report that we're asking you to complete. So if you have questions about how to generate that report, this walks you through. And just to kind of walk you through it also. So if you click, instead of on the home page tab, on this other tasks tab, and click on Manage Personal Records. Basically, you'll get a printout that looks something like, or a screen that looks something like this, and it'll tell you what's been met and what hasn't been met. And so when you're looking to see if, for example, your TB test is in, it will say not met if we don't have it on file for you. If you've turned something in, sometimes they turn it into, the TB test goes into Michelle, right? So it may not be logged for several days. So if you have turned something in and you know you have and it's not showing up on the screen, then sometimes it's just a matter of getting that paperwork into the computer system, and so you can call us about that too. But mostly this applies for your second year and third year, because most of this stuff you've already met, just to be admitted into the college. So your TB skin test should be up to date right now already. Your background check should be done. So quite a few of these things should already be complete. The last thing.
Check on your professionalism contract. Sometimes eValue has hiccups,
Yeah.
and I apologize on that, but it happened, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, just to explain a little bit too, so I'm sure this week you've been talked to about a variety of computer systems, from D2L to various programs. eValue is where our experiential training program lives, and so when you're putting in your selections in October or November for where you want to do rotations, that's where we'll do it. And so anything that we're communicating with you, a lot of times we'll do it through eValue. And so make sure you keep that username and or password and all of that information available. You're not going to get into this system very often, but when you do, you need to be able to access what you need to. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the needle stick policy. Again, you can find this on your eValue homepage, and so I just put it on there. It's also in the student handbook, and so the whole policy is there. I'm just going to summarize a few points of this policy, but it would also be good for you to go back and read it. Just want to say this is one of those things you guys are going through vaccination training so that you can get vaccinations. This is one of those things no one ever thinks they'll need, but it happens, and I will say that it's happened to me. I was working in Kenya a few years ago and tested someone's glucose and accidentally stuck myself with the lancet after testing their glucose. And so going through this process, it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not something that you should be worried about telling someone about. It's something that we all need to act on immediately when it happens, though. And so please don't keep that information to yourself. We had a student a few years ago do this, was embarrassed to say, waited a month before they told anyone, and then they started really worrying about what might be happening, and that's where we don't want you to go with this. So please, if something happens, make sure that we know right away so that we can get testing possibly of the patient for HIV. We can provide you with care if we need to. So what is an exposure? So basically it's a specific eye, mouth, or other mucous membrane, non-intact skin, or parenteral contact with potentially infectious materials that results from the performance of a student pharmacist's required training, basically. And so contact with infectious materials. Those infectious materials would be blood, semen, vaginal secretions, cerebrospinal fluid, or synovial fluid. Does not include things like feces, nasal secretions, saliva, sputum, sweat, tears, urine, or vomit unless they're visibly bloody. And And so exposure to this would not necessarily be an issue. It would be mostly, for your case, blood that we're worried about. So if you are exposed, make sure, first of all, you're washing that area with soap and water really well. If it's an eye, you want to flush it. And then flush splashes to nose, mouth, and skin. Again, irrigate your eyes. You have to report it. You need to report it to us. We really want you to report it right away. So call our office if something like this happens. Wherever you're at will also have their own processes that they want you to follow. So let's say you're doing a flu vaccination clinic at Walgreens and you for one of your service hours and you accidentally get a needle stick. They have their processes that they need to follow. We have ours. So you may be filling out 2 different reports, one for them and one for us. But make sure you're reporting it to both places. And then again, we want you to seek medical treatment immediately. If we happen to know that that patient is an HIV positive patient, for example, you may start treatment within the next few hours of having that needle stick. And so again, don't wait a month down the road. It's too late at that point. We need to know so that we can get you started on treatment if needed. So your preceptor or site employee will inform the patient and consent for any type of testing that we need done, not you. So it's not something you need to go talk to the patient about. Your preceptor will handle the situation. Again, report it immediately, and then you'll have incident reports. We want you to send that report to us within 24 hours of the incident. And then again, because the site may have policies, we have policies, make sure you're familiar with the policies of where you're going. You'll need to complete OSHA training, which we already talked about a few minutes ago. That OSHA training includes blood-borne pathogen training, and so you need to be aware of that training, and that's one of the reasons why it's required before you even go to Cornerstone. We want you to wear personal protective equipment. And then we have given you these badges as you walked in, those little cards that can go on the back of your name tag that kind of outline the highlights of this policy. So please put that on your name badge so that whenever you're someplace and something happens, sometimes you can, I know from personal experience, you can get freaked out by the experience and not know what to do. But if you have that on your badge, you have it available to you at any time that you need it. And so with that, I know I've covered a lot of information in a short amount of time. But this Cornerstone checklist, again, this is really important. Try to get these 2 things to us today so that you don't have to worry about this the rest of the time. Your confidentiality statement and the application. And then your flu vaccination. Yeah, your flu vaccination. Again, we need to do that as soon as the new flu vaccination is available. Your urine drug screen, September 24th to October 5th. Do not get it before September 24th. That's one of the most important things to point out because I don't want you guys spending $50 on a test that we can't use. So make sure you're waiting until after September 24th. Again, if you don't do these things, you don't go to Cornerstone, you can fail the course. And so again, if there are deadlines on here that you need to add to a calendar, do it today. While you're still thinking about it, so that we don't have a situation where you can't go to this experience. Yeah.
Did you go for work history?
I did not, but it doesn't really apply so much right now. It will apply more in October. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Or Debbie, have I left out anything else that you can?
No, when we figure out why everybody did not get the professionalism, we'll send out a email.
Yeah.
And if you did not find your password,
Make sure that we have your contact information if you didn't have a username and password. And then hopefully we'll get the professionalism contract straightened out today. We'll send it out in an email. So again, check your email and go ahead and sign it today so that you can check this off your list again. So with that, yes.
Do you want us to pass these to you or?
Yeah, so you can bring them up to our office in 301 if you want. If you have it done now, give it to us now and you don't have to worry about it. If we're not here, so we're typically here until 4:30, you can pass it under the door in our office. Yes. Okay, everybody, sorry, I can't hear the question. Go ahead.
Do we need to include like our temporary address and our apartment here, or just our home address?
Your apartment address here. Yeah. Any other questions? We're not finished yet. We still have 10 minutes, so we're not leaving after this. We still have another speaker after this. Do I have any other questions? So if not, I'll go ahead and have Dr. Gray come up. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about what this Cornerstone experience will look like, and then we'll wrap up at the end of that. Nine. Yeah.
Hey, good morning, guys. I understand you've been in here for a little bit, so I'm going to encourage you right now to stand, stretch out for a moment, and then I'm going to take your last 10 minutes. So stand, stretch, wake up, move around, not too much, don't leave. Yeah. You didn't have any
It's on
slides.
integrity.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have any slides for this.
Okay.
It's integrity. So.
All right, does that feel better? Pass your forms down to the inside of the aisle. That'll help Debbie and Tracy or whoever's collecting. Good. Okay. That work? Yeah. This will be your easiest 10 minutes of the day, I hope. So let me ask you, I'm going to give you a scenario, and I'm curious to know your thoughts, and so a little bit of audience participation will be helpful. If I told you that students who have just recently progressed from the P3 year to the P4 year have provided me some feedback during their time, P1, P2, and later, more recently as P3s, they had made a relationship with a senior individual. By senior, I'm saying someone over 65, right? They had built a relationship with someone like that. They had done so over the previous 6 semesters. And it had gotten to the point where not only did they see the individual in scheduled visits as part of your longitudinal process, but they also saw them at other times, maybe holidays or birthdays. They encouraged them. They went to see them in the hospital if that happened to be something that occurred during the time. They were very much their advocates, not only knowing them personally, but even healthcare advocates, even though they were in school. What would you say about a relationship like that? Have you guys experienced anything like that in your previous studies? No? Okay. So my point in saying that is it is certainly a unique opportunity. Cornerstone is a local facility where you will have the opportunity in your small groups to build relationships with seniors. Why might we choose seniors? Why would it be important to build a relationship with a senior? What do you guys think?
Because a lot of the people will be working with those seniors.
Yeah. So certainly, when you consider the healthcare burden often falls on that subgroup. They're on more medications. If you look at it from a pharmacy perspective, they certainly need more help in many ways in understanding the medications and the reasons for such. Yeah. Do you think that conversation's easier if you already have an understanding of maybe some of the challenges and barriers and living environments and whatnot related to seniors? Yeah, I think we agree. That was a good comment. So I'll share with you, it's kind of unique. Cornerstone, as far as we know, is one of only 2 programs nationwide for students in colleges of pharmacy, where there's an orchestrated, there's a longitudinal, meaning over the course of 3 years, process by which you will meet them and develop a relationship with them, we hope, that allows you to be an advocate for them in all environments. And not only for that individual, but also for other seniors as well. How many of you, just a show of hands, how many would say that you have a really close relationship with maybe grandparents or great-grandparents, uncles, aunts, someone who falls in that 65? That's the vast majority of you. That's awesome. I've had students come back and say that although they weren't related to the individual that we grouped them with, they really felt like they were becoming a family member over a period of time. And so we really want you guys to develop relationships like that. Some of those will happen just instantaneously. Others will develop over a period of time. But we want you to feel more comfortable with a senior after this experience or after multiple experiences than maybe you would have had you not had a similar opportunity. So Cornerstone, I'll give you a little bit of background. Cornerstone is certainly our partner in this. They have been more than a willing partner. even activities that they have that aren't related to the College of Pharmacy or ETSU. They invite us out as leaders and administrators in healthcare. They invite us out and say, hey, we want you to take part in this. And that's really cool. So they're certainly a strategic partner for us. And they open their doors. They open their seniors, their residents, to build relationship with you guys. And so it's really a powerful type process. Ultimately, over the course of 6 semesters, I'll schedule with you, or you will be scheduled for one visit. It's typically about half day or 3 hours, something like that. And you get to spend time with them and get to know them over that. And then I'll also encourage you to get to know them in other environments as well. There'll be opportunities for you to get to know them in their environment, right? So some of the things that they enjoy doing. That could be a evening movie, it could be bingo, it could be just about anything that they happen to enjoy, and you get to know them. Puzzles, reading aloud, there's all kinds of things that you guys might jump in and do in that sort of environment. My hope is to infuse you, almost like learning a foreign language in some ways. You will be in their environment for a period of time and obviously learn more about them and some of the challenges. Now, I will share with you there's some reality associated with this. You'll know them. Some of them, I think the age range was probably around 70 to 102 of the residents who volunteer in this program. So if you know someone, you get to know them, and you know them for a period of 3 years, what types of changes do you think you might witness in a 3-year period? How might the resident change in a 3-year period? I'm sorry? Yeah, you might see changes in their health, certainly. Some of those might be visual changes, or falls, or hearing challenges being amplified, for lack of a better word. And so, yeah, you might see some of those as well. But we know that. And that's certainly something that you'll see with your patient base when you're in practice. 4 years from now, you're in practice, you will also see, you'll build a relationship with your clients, and you'll see changes in them as well. And so this is a good opportunity in a safe environment where you with your small group, you with me, you with the resident, you can talk about, hey, here's something we witnessed. And you can, again, be an advocate for the individual, but also understand that the challenges that those individuals are having, sometimes, potentially, pharmacy may have caused it, unfortunately, and we can come in and say, hey, here's something we should consider regarding the medications. Otherwise, we can maybe even solve it. And so it's just a really powerful point where we can take responsibility for some of those patients. Cornerstone. They have, on a continuum, and I think a lot of senior living environments are going this way. They have, on a continuum, they have independent housing, which means individuals who live in those homes, almost like a garden home, or more, you might say like a townhouse, but not multiple levels. So they have that, and a lot of individuals will move into those environments because they have maintenance free, they have meals, they have other things that they can, sort of choose and pick and choose. And maybe as their needs change, they could escalate into assisted living, escalate into a nursing home, and all would be owned by a certain entity. In this case, Cornerstone being our partner. And it's just really cool when you can watch someone, their needs being met at a higher level, and then they transition back to where they were previously. And so it's really interesting to watch their needs and the provisions change over time. You guys might see that with one of your residents or more of your residents during the course of 3 years. I can tell you for the individuals who have been involved in the program, a number of them have continued a relationship even after their P3 year, right? So even though they're no longer required in a curricular-based standpoint, they continue those relationships at birthday parties and all kinds of things for those residents. So my hope is that you guys will also develop strong relationships with those individuals. What questions do you have? Cornerstone, seniors. So I mentioned this is one of only 2 programs nationally that we're aware of. The other one does things a little bit differently. I happen to like, you might suggest, I happen to like the way that we do it. And we're going to continue to do so and give you guys some opportunities to give feedback and help us improve as well from the standpoint of how we do things as well as the the resident interaction. So more on that later. I think your first visit isn't until possibly late September, early October. It's all on the schedule. But the things that you need to do before that are just as Dr. Crow had mentioned, the application and the time frame, and then up through the early part of September. I think it was early. Is it early September? What date was it?
October 5th.
October 5th, that's right. Thank you. So you guys take care of those things, and we'll take care of everything else for your first visit after that. Questions? Was it easy 10 minutes? Yeah? All right. So I understand you guys had lunch and practice this afternoon. Any additional things that they need, Dr. Crow?
No, just remember, like, go ahead and try to turn your application and your confidentiality statement in today if you can, if you didn't turn it in already. And then also your OSHA training, try to get it done this week. So, yes,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, you guys are dismissed. Thank you.
Thanks.